Hello, friends of Seminary. With all the excitement coming into 2023, come follow me in the new Seminary curriculum. We have a pacing guide generator that will help us to adopt what their curriculum has and adapt it to the schedule that we're going to use in our various assignments. Let me introduce you this first tab here, which is the teacher's manual. This is everything that is in the teacher's manual. It's aligned with the week that you can find it and come follow me. And then it also has the month here. So if we were just to have this ideal world where we had seminary 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, we could just follow this calendar here. But that's not the truth. We have breaks like spring break. We have 4-day weeks of seminary. We have different schedules and holidays, etc. How do we adapt this to our needs? When you come over to the third tab here, you are now in the pacing guide generator. And so what you can do is easily adjust this to meet your needs. The first thing I want to do is I want to determine my start date. And so if I'm coming back to school on Monday the 2nd or January 9th, or maybe I'm coming back to school January 16th. So what I would do is type in January 16th, if that was my first day, 2023, and watch what happens. Everything updates in that column. So now I have a perfectly sequential calendar on the left. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to notice where I'm at and come follow me that week. And so I might need to adjust these. And so if I'm January 16th, the week column does not adjust. So I have to go back to the teacher's manual, identify what is on January 16th here. We're on John 1. So at that point, I would start here and move down to John 1. And then I would have to manually adjust this on the left so that I can see where come follow me is that week. So that will help us to determine where we're at when we come into our scripture block for the week. Okay, now that I've determined that January 16th is my start date and that we're going to be in John 1 that week, I also need to consider this first week of seminary. What do I want to do when I come back? And so the seminary teacher's manual has the role of the student lessons. And this kind of is what we typically do in the fall and August, but because we're in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in midterm, we're not beginning or in summertime. And so this introduction to the New Testament might be a lesson to consider. But we also have lessons on studying the scriptures, learning by the Spirit, learning by faith in Jesus Christ, and the introduction to doctrinal mastery. So we would need to consider how many of those lessons we want to introduce at the beginning of our new term. And if that's the case, in our pacing guide generator, we would kind of ignore John 1 and focus more on introducing the New Testament, studying the scriptures, learning by the Spirit, learning by faith in Jesus Christ, and introducing doctrinal mastery. But let's say I have a class that's really good at studying the scriptures, and we've talked a lot about learning by the Spirit, but I like this idea of learning by faith in Jesus Christ. So I'm going to focus on John 1, but I want to also introduce doctrinal mastery because I think we need a refresher on that. So to manipulate this, I would do the introduction to the New Testament when we come back, and then I would probably focus on lesson number 4. So I'm going to type in 4 in the day column here. I'm going to zoom in. And now that adjusts the learning block. So now I'm learning by faith in Jesus Christ. I want to have a doctrinal mastery introductory lesson to refresh on that. And that leaves me, because I'm in a 5-day seminary this week, 2 extra days to talk about John 1. So I can go back to my teacher's manual, find John 1, and I have some options here. And these options I can teach this lesson on John 1 through 16. I can go through the 1 through 51, titles and roles, etc. You also will see that in this new curriculum, we have an assess your learning, and we have the doctrinal mastery lessons, which we'll get to in just a second. So let's just say I want to do John chapter 1. I really am excited about the come and see lesson. So I go into the curriculum, I see which one of these I want to teach, and I want to teach the come and see. So I'm going to put that into my pacing guide generator. Come and see is lesson 18, and so I'll drop an 18 in here, and voila, John chapter 1, 35 to 51 is my come and see lesson. One of the things that you'll notice with this new curriculum is that doctoral mastery has a very high priority. We know that doctoral mastery has a high priority because when we look at the new assessments coming up in 2023, the assessment is entirely doctoral mastery. So assessment number 1 at the end of the term, every single question will reference doctoral mastery. So that means doctoral mastery lessons are not really adaptable in the sense that they must be taught. The second tab on the pacing guide generator is a doctoral mastery cheat sheet. And what that means is that every reference needs to be taught in the curriculum so that our students will be prepared for the assessment. So here I have on this one sheet all of the doctoral mastery lessons and reviews that will help you cover these 11 doctoral mastery references that will be on the assessment. When we do this, there's a little bit of a trick here. Let's go back to my pacing guide generator. I am starting on January 16th. But if I go to the teacher's manual and I look, that means I am missing 1, 2, 3 lessons, doctoral mastery lessons, that my students need to have in order to complete the assessment. So since this is the case, I will go to my pacing guide generator here and I will look that I have this introduction to doctoral mastery, but I might want to go backwards and make sure that I get the Luke 2 lesson in order to make sure my students understand Luke 2. The doctoral mastery lessons are really 2-day lessons. If you look at the manual here, every doctoral mastery reference covers the block that it is found in, and then on the first day you talk about the reference in context, so you study all the context surrounding the reference. The next day you focus directly on the reference. We have an obligation to put this into our pacing guide. So if we're on spring break or if we're starting late and we miss a reference week, then we need to make sure that we plug that reference week in here. So if I'm in this class, I might not want to do John chapter 1 this week, and instead I will focus on the Luke 2, 11 and 12. And what this does is it brings doctoral mastery into this lesson here. On the doctoral mastery cheat sheet, one of the reasons I have the coded ones blue is because they are high priorities, because these are reference lessons, and so they're the highest priority. Doctoral mastery reviews are very good and helpful, especially in preparing for the assessment. They can be manipulated and moved around and maybe even removed a little bit more than the doctoral mastery reference lessons. This sounds bad, but the lowest priority in the teacher's manual are the assess your learnings. And so as much as we love this, we might be manipulating our schedules a lot. So the doctoral mastery review will help our students a lot. The assess your learning lessons just basically cause us to go back and reflect on all the things we've studied over the last few weeks, and we do some activities and exercises that help us to solidify some of the things that we learned. If I had to remove some lessons out of the pacing so that I could fit in all the doctoral mastery references, the assess your learnings would probably be the easiest ones to remove with least amount of consequence if we're adapting this to meet our needs. There's also one other function in the pacing guide generator. Let's say I teach 4 days a week. And so as I go through this, we're doing Monday through Thursday as a seminary class. I can simply go into this column here on the day and put an X in, and the X will fill in a no seminary that day. So that way, if I'm a 4-day-a-week class, I can put my lessons in and have my Friday off. Or if my days off are on Wednesdays in the middle of the week and we teach on Fridays, we could go here and we can have our lessons going that way. The other way of doing this is if we're on spring break and we're in March here, you can use an H and you get the same effect so the X may just represent the days that we're not having seminary, and the H's represent a holiday, if that brings some clarity to your pacing. So this is a pacing guide generator that has the cheat sheet, which gives you all the doctoral mastery lessons you have to teach in blue in order for your students to get all 11 references before end of term. And then you have the teacher's manual. The last thing I want to point out here is that the assessment days that you put into your pacing, you have A1 and A2. And typically a lot of us are going to be out of seminary by June, and Luke 24 is a midsummer reference in doctoral mastery that needs to be brought into this term. And so I have this summer doctoral mastery in assessment. So if I pick my day to do the assessment, I would just pick it here. Let's go down to May, and I would say I want to do it May 22nd. I would go A1, and that would put the doctoral mastery assessment in there. And if I wanted to do a review day like the next day, I'd do A2, and that would be a review day. And so I could plug that into my calendar. This is exciting times to be a seminary teacher. We're excited to get to know this new curriculum. Hopefully this will kind of help ease the burden a little bit in making those decisions that you have to make as a teacher. But it's nice to have one resource to where we can access all of the things we need to conduct our class the following day. It's a blessing, and I hope you enjoy it.